Here we go. Y'all tell me who's on the line here.
Dave Barbie's online.
All right.
Jack Williams.
Jack. Glad you're home safe, Jack. And
Thank you.
we've got a couple people parking, and so it's going to be about 5 or 10 more minutes before we start. So just wanted to let y'all know you could, go get something to drink or, do whatever you got to do, and then be back with us in a few minutes, okay?
This is Lisa. Can you hear me?
Who's that?
Lisa Hamilton?
Lisa. Hey, Lisa. How are you?
Yay. I am great. Me and technology, I never know if it's working. I don't think do I have my camera on?
We can't see you, but that's okay.
Okay, yeah. Well, I haven't had Wi-Fi. We had a tree fall down in our yard last week, and we just now have Wi-Fi again. So we're gradually coming back online.
It's gonna go.
Can you say, is Doug on?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Hey, Doug?
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm going and start the meeting, and I just want to open the meeting officially and then just call for attendance. So how do we do that? Would y'all just state your name and tell us who you are? Doug, you go first.
All right. Doug Aldridge. I guess I'm the newest board member joining today. Good afternoon.
Glad you're here. We'll talk about you in just a minute.
Thank you.
Barbie. Mr. Barbie,
I'm,
wake up.
Dave Barbie is here.
Okay. Lisa,
Lisa Hamilton's here. Hello.
Jack,
Jack Williams is here.
good. I think that's everybody online, right? Okay, all right. And so I'm here, Randy Smith, and Monica's here. And I think that establishes a quorum. So Scott's gonna be here in just a second. He apparently had a hard time finding a parking place or something. But anyway, so just want to welcome everybody to the June the 10th Department of Human Services meeting. And I just want to formally introduce Doug Aldridge to everybody. And Doug, I'm gonna brag on you a minute, so and then you can say something after I get finished. But Doug has just a little bit of a bio on him. He leads the Aldridge Private Wealth Management Group that focuses on families and foundations and institutions. He's been doing that over 20 years, and he's in financial services, enrolled with roles at Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, and he just focuses on top tier wealth management, financial strategies. And he's been recognized by Forbes. I've never been in Forbes magazine. Have y'all? Okay. So we appreciate that. And as one of the best in-state wealth advisors, he was raised in Atlanta, and Doug and his wife Grace, they've got 6 amazing children on their farm. I think it's a cool name of his farm, Wild Fern Ranch. So in Chattahoochee Hills, Georgia. And both he and his wife are passionate in causes that involve children. And he's focused on foster care, adoption, education, and they served in numerous capacities, including the State Families Division of Bethany Christian Services and Families First. Doug serves on that board of Families First and Wild Fern Ranch, and also a like-minded nonprofit in Chattahoochee Hills, Georgia, that utilizes assisted learning to help special needs and underprivileged children. So Doug, man, we are so happy that you're with us, and we look forward to hearing from you. So tell us something that I didn't say about yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate the introduction. I think you covered most of it. I apologize. I'm at the beach today, so that's something you did not mention. Had I known we were meeting in person earlier, I would have rearranged my schedule, but apologies. I'm down here visiting my mom in Ponte Vedra near Jacksonville, and my wife and I are super excited to get involved. We have a passion for our state and a passion for the youth of our state. So this seems like a good fit, and look forward to meeting everyone.
We look forward to working with you, a bunch of great folks on the board, as well as all the folks that deliver services to the children through the Department of Human Services. So thank you for that. One last question. So what do you do for fun?
So it's actually during the summertime we have a blueberry farm. So we have 1,300 organic blueberry bushes. So if anyone wants to come down to Chattahoochee Hills, which is just outside of Serenity, about 45 minutes south of Atlanta, we'll have live music and blueberries to pick and food trucks and kegs. So come down anytime and pick blueberries.
And then you can't get the color of the blueberries off your hands for like a week, right?
The late season blueberries in late July that are melting, that is true. Now they're beautiful. All
right. Well, all right. So I think first up is Mary It has the program reports. Mary Hammond? Oh, there she is. Hi.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am eager to share with you all some observances, events, and initiatives that are happening in child welfare. If you'll go to the next slide, please. Each May, DHS joins the nation in recognizing National Foster Care Awareness Month, which is a time to celebrate our foster caregivers and their dedication to providing stable and loving homes to children and youth who are in foster care. We also use this month as a time to raise awareness about foster caregivers across the state. And during this month, we select 14 caregivers, which is one from each of our regions, to be recognized as Foster Caregivers of the Year. And we celebrate them. This year, we hosted a virtual Foster Caregiver of the Year celebration. And if you all were not able to join that, I would encourage you to check out the Foster Care Awareness Month highlight that is on our DHS website, because there you can learn more about each of the caregivers and the outstanding work that they've done for our families and children. Next slide, please. So in an effort to promote careers in child welfare, we have hosted 2 in-person realistic job preview days since the beginning of the year. The first one we held in Lawrenceville in January, and our second event was in Atlanta on April 27th. And these events are designed to give folks who are interested a preview of what it would look like to have a job within child welfare. The attendees have the opportunity to try a virtual reality headset. And in that second picture there, you can see that those are the attendees who are wearing the virtual reality headsets. And that simulates a home visit with a family.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very realistic. I've had the opportunity to do it, and I started my career here as a case manager, and it was
Wow.
very realistic to what that experience is like. So they also, at these events, have the opportunity to talk to leaders who are in child welfare, as well as current case managers and our HR representatives. So we try to really give a holistic view and create opportunities for them to network. We've been very impressed with the turnout so far at these events, and have had several of the attendees walk away, express interest, and follow up with applications with us.
We have any more in the schedule in the future, or any ideas when we'll do
We're
more of them?
we don't have the dates yet, but we've been pleased so far. So we're planning to do some more. The virtual reality headsets we do have. So we just look for locations, and then
When you do those, when you got them planned, could you somehow communicate to us that when you're gonna do it, we might pop in one of
that'd be amazing.
I'd like to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that I want to wear one of the virtual things, but it'd be
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll let you all know when we've got the next one
all right.
scheduled. So Celebration of Excellence, we are currently planning, and this, of course, is our event where we honor young adults who have graduated from high school or have completed post-secondary achievements. And last Friday, we sent you all a formal invitation with a link to register for Celebration of Excellence. Registration closes this Friday, June 14th. So if you haven't confirmed your attendance, if you do that, that would be great. We hope that you all are able to join us. We're very excited about
I hope register, if I can go.
it. Okay.
Well, you did or you did?
We'll check for it.
I think that's the
What's the
one.
location?
But
The location is at a hotel in Atlanta near the airport, but I don't remember exactly which one.
But when we registered, it tell us.
It will, yes. It should be on the link.
Okay, I was just kidding. I knew I did. That's all.
Yeah.
All right.
But I think, and you know, this is one of the best You know how with.
Yes.
Fantastic last year.
I
Yeah,
look forward to going. I'm like, I'm saying this.
it was.
It's one not to miss if you're gonna do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Laugh and cry.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we are continuing our efforts to prioritize technology modernization. I have mentioned in previous meetings, Georgia Communicare, and we are continuing to put enhancements into Georgia Communicare. Of course, it's a set of interconnected web portals that are designed to support and enhance our programs that serve 3 primary user groups: CASAs, or court-appointed special advocates, foster parents, as well as parents. And the system gives them an opportunity to access information that they're legally entitled to from our system of record, which of course we call SHINES. And in February 2024, we completed our statewide rollout. And then just last month in May, we launched the Georgia Communicare mobile app. So we are very excited about that, and it was extra special to be able to launch that during National Foster Care Awareness Month. Next slide, please. Of course, Communicare has the ability to chat, various notifications, so that if somebody uses it, the other recipients can opt in to receive notification. There's the opportunity to create appointments, request appointments, and upload documents, as well as get the names and contact information for the child's case manager, that case manager supervisor, as well as the county director for each child, so that we want to streamline communication and make sure that all of these parties have the ability to get in touch with us in a timely way.
Mary, who is Communicare available to?
It's available to foster parents, to birth parents, to CASAs, as well as DFAC staff members.
And at what point are the foster parents, notified about the ability to log on?
They are eligible to log on as soon as they have a child placed in their home. So all of our foster parents with children have received notification.
Interesting. I had a child last month and no one notified me.
Well, we can connect offline and troubleshoot and figure out what might have been the cause of that.
Great.
So with technology top of mind for us, I want to share a couple of other efforts that we have underway. We are developing the Georgia Caregiver Connection, which will be a foster parent onboarding and reevaluation portal, which we are excited about, and we are eager to launch that system later in the year. And then we are also modernizing the foster parents reimbursement process. We're going to digitize that. And we know that's greatly needed by our caregivers. And so I will share more with you about those 2 projects as they are developed. So the last thing that I wanted to share with you all today is an initiative that we have that is called There's No Place Like Home. And this is an effort to focus on adoptions and help us get to finalization for children who are free for adoption and have a family already identified as their adoptive resource. And so we create a cohort each year and work towards getting those kids adopted. This is a partnership between our regional adoption coordinators and our state office adoption teams with our field staff that work on adoptions. And we have a call every month where we track our progress on the current cohort. And of course, our goal is to get each cohort all of the finalizations done within that year. And we actually use a year that revolves around adoption, National Adoption Month, which is in November. So that's when we close out our year. And I wanted to share some pictures with you all from our call last month. because we create the opportunity for folks to share stories about families and their journey towards finalization, to bust through barriers. So it creates a wonderful opportunity to provide accountability and celebration around our adoption work and help us maximize our performance there. This is something we've also done since 2016.
So
it's
how
very
many children are there available to be adopted in Georgia today or recently?
So I can tell you, as part of our cohort of children, and this cohort is children who are free for adoption with an adoption resource. So they're not children that we're going to be looking for an adopted family for, right?
The resource has already been identified.
The resources
Just
are
got to do the paperwork.
just got to do paperwork.
And-
That's right.
and so how many children are there like that
I think there are 1,000 kids that are part of this cohort.
that have been identified? The families have been identified,
Mhm.
but it still takes a year to get them settled in.
It doesn't necessarily take a year, right? We just run a cohort on a year cycle. They have been like, they just may have reached the
And therefore that's part of the goal.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
That's right. They kind of become a class, if you will.
got it. Okay.
And most of them will achieve finalization before we get to a year.
Okay. So how many were done last year?
I think that we got like 95% of them, almost all of them last year. Yeah, it's
Almost
very
1,000.
close.
I would guess the number's about the same every year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Georgia historically does well with adoptions and getting to finalization. Of course, we want that to happen as fast as possible.
Yep.
Right? And so this is one of the ways that we create accountability, excitement, and celebrate that work.
Wonderful.
And I will now open the floor for any questions that you all may have.
Yeah, so Mary, I know that y'all just had the SAMS conference. What was that, in May, maybe? Can y'all hear me?
We did a family matching meeting, I think, in April.
Gosh, I think wasn't there something, anyway, I got this thing about, the older children that were available for adoption. What is going on for children who've gone through TPR that are younger? Is there anything in the works to help those children?
All of the children who don't have an identified resource are available for, any of the programs that we have, because we want to help them find resources. So we don't have age limits on them. We just have more older children who are available without resources.
So just for the rest of the group, and I know that we have a new board member here, maybe you could explain it. So say you have a little 8-year-old girl who has gone to TPR and does not have an identified adoptive resource. What is DFACS doing to find a permanent home for her?
So we have several resources that we are using to help look for a permanent home for that child. We have some specific contracts. We have 5 contracts with private agencies where they are constantly looking for families who are interested in adopting children and kind of bringing those families forward and getting them approved. We have staff through our adoption.
Those 5 private agencies, would the families need to be registered with those private agencies?
They expressed interest and they can help them get approved and registered if they're not already.
And then what about families that are registered as foster parents willing to adopt? How would they be available to these children?
We have, of course, our team at our state adoption unit that is working on matching. And so whenever we have families that expressed interest in a child, they are helping to get all of those studies to the child's case managers and our regional adoption coordinators to help make matches.
Because I'm still concerned that children that are available for adoption that do not have a family identified, that there is a gap between the families wanting to adopt and the child. Like, how would the family know about the child?
Well, we have, of course, the national resources that we connect with My Turn Now, and, you know, are working to promote children who are available for adoption and make sure that families know about them. But if you've got,
why a child would not be listed on It's My Turn Now if they're available for adoption and there's no resource for them? There's
I'm
some
sorry.
criteria.
you broke
so
up.
if a child, can you hear me?
I can't hear you very well.
I'm sorry, maybe I need to stand closer. So if a child is in foster care and has gone through TPR and has gone through TPR and is in need of an adopted family, what is the threshold for them being on It's My Turn Now or Adopt US Kids? Like, is there a reason why they would not be listed and just be a foster child?
No, there isn't. If they're free for adoption, then they should be listed there. I mean, of course, you know, we have to have pictures of them to list them there, right? But otherwise they should be listed, and we're working to get them there.
Lisa, thanks for your questions, because it brings reality to systems.
Yeah, I'm
and
just
so-
about time frames, like, you know, what a
So-
time frame would be, and like why a child would be in that limbo, not being listed, not, you know, and so that, you know, folks are not aware of their existence.
Mary, can you just follow up directly with Lisa on this specific issue?
Absolutely.
And then y'all can share with us next time what came out of it.
Yep,
Okay,
will do.
all right, wonderful, thank you. Thanks, Lisa, for your questions.
Oh, sure.
All right, you bet. Let's see, who's up next? Mr. John Hollerman? There you are.
Sir. Afternoon.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon, and board members. As he said, my name is John Holman. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of the Office of Family Independence. On the next slide, I have 3 projects I'm going to be sharing with y'all today. 3 initiatives within the Office of Family Independence that we are working on right now. One is an intelligent task routing project that I'm very excited about. A professional development program that we're building, and a library kiosk self-service setup that we just finished rolling out too. So to start off, on the next slide, I'm going to start with the intelligent task routing system. This is a little bit in the weeds, so maybe I'll start with a quick primer on how our system works. So y'all are probably all familiar with Georgia Gateway, which is our integrated eligibility system. Anything that comes in the gateway that needs a caseworker to act on is a task. So the application that comes into the task, renewal that comes in is a task. Any reported change that a caseworker needs to process, that's a task. And so the way that those are assigned currently, we have roles within our system. If you are trained in Medicaid, you have the Medicaid role. We've broken that down, so some folks work applications, some folks work renewals to kind of make it a little bit more nuanced, but it's pretty basic. It's, you know, this is a Medicaid task, this is a Medicaid worker. And what happens is every task that comes in a day gets assigned out that night, and it gets onto a caseworker's dashboard. Caseworker can see the dashboard, the supervisor can see the dashboard, and they kind of work, the supervisor or the caseworker, with the help of their supervisor, prioritizes all the tasks that have been assigned to them. And, you know, they can see, you know, this is due tomorrow, so I should work on it today, or, you know, these I have 4 days on, maybe I'll start working them a little bit and come back to it, something like that. But we are changing the way that works because, you know, we spend a lot of time, you know, we realize we don't get enough information about the tasks in the system right now to assign them efficiently. So we spend a lot of times where cases will be like, hey, this is a Medicaid task, but it actually falls into an age, blind, and disabled class of assistance that I'm not trained to work on. A little bit harder, needs additional training, or we have some folks that only work on Medicaid cases and can't do a SNAP case, but once they get it, start digging into it, like, oh, this is actually linked to another case that has SNAP on it, I can't process that. So we're enhancing the system so that we can get more information about a case before it's worked on. And then we're not going to assign out all the work, as part of a nightly batch process. What we're going to do is we're going to build work groups of people, and we're going to use that information about the tasks to divide them into these work streams. And so I can assign a group of people to a group of tasks and put work in it however I want. And within that system, of these work groups with different characteristics, I can set the priorities at a leadership level. So right now, if I wanted everyone to work on Medicaid applications that were over 3 months old, I would have to tell them that. And I would tell, my assistant deputy commissioner, that they would tell, the deputy district managers, and they would tell the administrators, and they would tell the supervisors. It's hard to communicate out priorities, through the current system. The current system really relies on the caseworker to know this is what I'm supposed to be doing and this is what I'm supposed to be working. So we're kind of shifting that responsibility from the caseworker back to leadership level, and we'll be able to move people around and put them into different working groups, and we're going to create new working groups during one. On the next slide, I have some just key concepts about how this works. It's a lot of words, and y'all can read it later. I won't read it all out today, but really the big piece of it is those work groups and being able to create them or retire them whenever I want to. So if I wanted to create a group that was going to attack like a very specific group of maybe nursing home applications, I could get all of those, put them into this place, and that creates a queue of work. Say I have 10 workers in there, and I put them in order. I want you to work the oldest ones first. They'll just hit a button that says next task, and it'll give them that case. And then they'll work that case. Whenever they finish that, they hit the button again and get another one. So instead of, sometimes, someone's sick, they go out on leave maybe, or if they're not around, sometimes cases, we have like a toggle right now, and if you don't turn the toggle off, they keep getting work, and maybe it's expedited cases that need to be processed quickly. All that will go away. If anybody gets a case that they can't work, there's functionality within the new system so that they can escalate it to their supervisor. It's basically just, they get one, they look at it, but can't do this, they kick it up to their supervisor. The supervisor retags it, it gets assigned to its correct queue and to a group of workers that can't work it. So very excited about gaining more information about the case on the front end before a caseworker looked at it. That'll save us a lot of time of just shifting work around. Very excited about the flexibility to kind of pop up new working groups whenever there's a new priority. I can just create a new one whenever I want and throw work in there for folks to do, and I can prioritize it myself without having to communicate through a bunch of levels of leadership. We can stand these up and retire them very quickly to make the workforce more flexible. Really kind of have more options when you need to do things quickly. Or over a long period of time. Something's going to take a long time too. It'll work for that too. So really, another couple things, I've kind of talked about a lot of them, but more visibility into the work. It's another big theme that we'll be getting. Once you get a case, it's not like I start a case and I finish a case all the time. Like sometimes you have to reach out to the client to get more information. Sometimes you could get, pulled off of something for something else. But we can track the person, the caseworker's work on a case. There will be more information for us, the leadership level, to track that. We're already able to do that a little bit, but this is going to add more to that. We'll also be able to get dashboards that show us, help us monitor all the work at a global level. We have reports right now, but they're actually a day behind because the amount of data is just so much that running real-time reports on that big of a scale is more difficult. So we'll have dashboards that update periodically throughout the day instead of just having to wait till the next day to see progress. We'll get updates today. So very excited about that. The last piece on here, appointment rescheduling. Something that we hear a lot is that folks struggle to get in contact with us. So during the application process, they'll be able to express a preference on when they'll be contacted. So like if you work in the morning, you're available in the afternoon, put that in there. And then the system will automatically schedule the appointment within that time period. But then if the client gets the appointment notice or email, then they look at it and say, I'm not available at that time on that day. they can then go in and reschedule without having to call or talk to anyone. So very excited about that too. That's a big, efficient, like it sounds small, but that's like, a lot of phone calls and a lot of time trying to go back and forth to connect with folks that we need to talk to determine their eligibility. So this is something the field's been asking for a really long time, to kind of, we asked what would make your lives better. A lot of these things, answer a lot of those or resolve a lot of those problems. So
What's the true measure of success?
we have what we call standard of promptness. So that's benchmarks up by our federal regulators. So being within standard of promptness is our goal.
Right.
So process and that ranges depending on what we're talking about. If it's a renewal, it has to be completed before the end of the month. In the SNAP program and the Medicaid programs. If it's an application, that time period can vary, but 45 days is pretty usual. One for Medicaid application.
So what were you before this and what are you now?
So it doesn't exist yet. It's so we're doing this in two
The
phases.
standard.
Yeah, sorry, I should have started.
Okay.
The standard of promptness does exist. And we are not currently meeting the standard of promptness for applications or renewals right now. And that's a lot of the post-PHE world and that workload, so getting through that. But this is going to happen in two phases. The first phase in August. So I think the second week of August, we'll see this rolled out, and then we're going to have another phase that happens in November. So kind of two pieces to make this big of a system change. But I'm very happy or very optimistic about the ability for this to, if you talk about saving a couple minutes, or if you have 2,200 caseworkers, you save 30 minutes a day. That's a lot of productivity that you can save. So this is going to be big. So wanted to share that with y'all. So, question?
Yeah, I have a question for you. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah.
At least.
Great. So I think this is amazing, and I'm so excited to see this this type of program to be implemented. I'm curious, just from from the foster parent side of view, we know who our case manager is and who their supervisor is. I'm curious about this work group. Like, how do you determine work groups and how many people would be in that? Like, or say if it's for a child or how is that done? Is it for the child or for a foster family or is it per, I don't know what else. I'm just curious how you're putting this together.
So for this I'm talking about the system that manages the Medicaid, SNAP, TANF.
Just that side.
Eligibility determinations. Gotcha. Yeah. So.
Never mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Although, Lisa, if there is any ongoing work group opportunities for foster families, Mary and I will get with you and flag those just so you know what's underway. We're doing the foster parent and resource survey right now. So that's one that immediately comes to mind, but there may be other opportunities that we can flag for you.
That'd be great.
Wonderful.
So next program or next project is training professional development. OFI has a training and professional development team, and we're working on them to formalize the process of knowledge transfer from a veteran employee to our new. So one of the things I've presented on in previous meetings has been the incredible number of people we've been able to bring on over the last year and a half. So I think that number is it's over 1,500. I think we might be at 1,600 new caseworkers, which is
Out of how many?
we have 2,200 total now. So, over, and some of those folks, have left. So it's not like
Sure.
they're all new, but that's a big portion of the staff is now, newer to the agency than the other half of the staff. So a big thing that we're trying to focus on, how do we, best way to build capacity is keep those folks around and continue to build their skill sets. So, in our supervisor group, those are our more veteran staff. They have a lot of responsibility. So one of my big focuses is trying to pull off as many responsibilities from them that aren't supervising and have them, really get to building those folks up, have time to build those folks up. One of those things is work assignment, which is what the tax routing system would do. They were in charge of moving a lot of work around previously, and hopefully they won't have to do that. But another piece is, now that with the extra time they have not doing that piece, they can kind of focus on their new folks and and really build them up and, you know, every group has like a person. Like, it's funny, I'll go into like in-person meetings and they'll be like, oh yeah, Mary's been here for 30 years. We give everybody a day with Mary and she just teaches them the ropes or whatever. And that's great if you live in a county that has a Mary in it, but you know, we want to make sure every county has a Mary. So, you know, just trying to make sure that that process exists for everyone, or so everyone gets that, you know, special attention from a supervisor every once in a while. So the OPI training and development team went out and got special training at a class that's taught in Colorado, and they're bringing some of that coaching and skill building process back to us. And what we're going to do is it's kind of they call it like I think they say like a cohort based thing, but we already went through that earlier. But I think of it as kind of, this is like a negative thing to say, but I think of it as kind of pyramid scheme. So they're gonna teach
In a good way, yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna teach our like administrator level folks or like highest level supervisors, all these skill sets, and then they will teach another level below them. And we're gonna have it so that it's not within a direct hierarchy. So like if you are an administrator in the statewide team, you may train somebody that's an administrator or a supervisor over in District 2 or something, so that there's new people are getting to meet each other, exchange ideas across the agency, and really spread this knowledge and create a bigger network too. So it's really connecting the leadership folks. And the end goal will be that the caseworkers, there's a formal process for them to learn more about what it means to be a caseworker at OPI, what it means, more like why are you doing the work than just how to do it. The training team does a good job, on onboarding, but it's a complicated job with a lot of steps. So this is to kind of build more into continuing education through a formal process. Anyone have any questions about that? I'm gonna transition to the next thing. I think I've reported on this before. We had some American Rescue Plan Act funding that was provided through FNF, or Administrative Projects to Improve the SNAP program. And one of the things that we wanted to do was stand up self-kiosks across the state. So in the libraries. So we were working with the Georgia Public Libraries for that, and these have the rollout started last fall, but I'm happy to announce that it's complete now. And so these kiosks are now present, not in every single library, but in a lot of libraries. We have self-service kiosks. You'll notice here on the slide, you can, if y'all get electronic copies of these, there's a link embedded in our website where you can actually pull up a map and get directions to the closest one to you. So it's very excited that that's now available. The libraries have different hours than our offices do and are in different places.
Page not found, but anyway.
Okay, well, we can check on yours. Yeah, if you don't mind helping me follow up on that. But it's actually managed by the libraries, so we'll work with them to get it fixed. But we've put it on our website to help spread the word about it too.
I don't see the number of libraries that you have set up. Do you have a number that throughout the state?
So the number of kiosks, I do know. The number of kiosks, about 400 is how.
400, okay. It's a lot.
But what we did, so they sent out a survey to their library folks and of who could take one originally. And so we had about 50, I think, that we couldn't find homes for on the initial rollout. And we actually kept them at defects offices. We deployed them at our own offices to kind of do a little pilot to see if this is something that we wanted to do too. We have kiosks in our lobbies right now, but they're kind of big and they don't have the full functionality of the Gateway program or system. They just have, you can like upload documents and check the status of your case and stuff. But this is a full experience, everything you can get on a computer. It's integrated with our mobile app, but you can also view the desktop version of what you're trying to do.
Did you have to train any of the library staff?
We sent some documentation along with it. So to hope, like we didn't want to turn them into caseworkers.
No.
Or they actually said that themselves, that they did not want to become caseworkers, but we did provide them with a pretty detailed guide on how to get to the customer portal, so that they could share that information with clients as they came in, if they had any trouble. And we printed out some little cards for them to find the local, the closest DFACS office or get in touch with our staff if they do have questions. So the goal is to not shift too much of the burden onto them, but they, reached out to us actually to kind of kick this partnership off. So they have been great partners, the Georgia Public Library Service. Very excited to work with them and to continue to work with them on future projects. But this one has been great. You know, they have provided us with some feedback. It's been very positive. People really like them. You know, they already have a network of Chromebooks in the libraries, and this uses the same technology, so they can manage them all on the same platform. So they're managing we bought them the physical hardware, and they're managing the software piece of it for us. So it's been going well so far. And if you do make it out to your local office and see one and have some feedback, be interested to hear that as well. But so far it's been very positively received. And that was my last project I was going to highlight, but I'm open to answering questions about those things or anything else that's happening with Family Independence.
What was your question about the website didn't work? What was that?
It just said page not found, but you know,
Okay.
I'll try.
Well, but I mean, it should be there, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
you look at it.
We will. Sorry about that. I think it's set up through like a Google, just like Google Maps. So maybe a connection got
Yeah.
broken there.
All right, very good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
All right, Ms. Jean. Okay.
Afternoon.
How are you?
It's been a while since I've been down here.
Glad to see you.
Yeah, I'm standing in for our division director, Mary Lee Boatwright Quinn, who's at our Georgia Memory Net conference this week. Last week, we had a very successful Healthy Aging conference. And it was our 25th anniversary conference. So that was nice. Yes. So next slide. So I'm talking about the fun of federal regulations. These regulations for the Older Americans Act final rule were issued in April. They are the first regulation updates since 1988. We are the feds and here to help you. And they were effective May 15. The deadline for compliance is October 1st. And there is not a state unit on aging in the country that thinks we're going to meet that deadline. I'm just saying. We are still actually in the gap analysis between what the new rules say and what our current policy and procedures say. They basically reorganized the Code of Federal Regulations. So if nothing else, every legal citation is going to have to be looked at and updated. So lots of fun there. The Older Americans Act itself is reauthorized approximately every 4 to 5 years. It was last reauthorized in 2020, and they promise us that they're going to stay on track. And as they reauthorize the Older Americans Act, they are going to update the regulations so we won't have this big, huge gap in what we're supposed to be doing and what we have in our policy. Next slide. So the major changes, as I said, we're supposed to have them implemented by October of 2025. Some of the biggest changes are that they have told us that we have to have our state plan amended to have the assurances that we're going to be in compliance. And we just did our state plan, so we're going to be doing it again. We are to the changes in social need, the list has expanded. We've always not been a means tested program in the Older Americans Act, but based on the greatest economic and social need. And that list has expanded, and it now includes not only the disabilities, the language barriers, the rural areas, but they're now saying we can pick and choose based on our state's needs around religion, gender, identity, HIV, chronic conditions, and housing issues. So part of what we'll be looking at is which of that list do we want to focus on? And the caveat is always that we're going to need reliable data sources for these target population groups, and I don't think they all exist. So that's going to be interesting. They have also added teeth to contracts and commercial relationships. As some of you know, the bulk of the Older Americans Act programs are not administered by state staff. We contract with our area agencies on aging. There's been a push over the past couple of years to have those area agencies on aging to be more self-sufficient, economically viable, to go after contracts with healthcare organizations, with hospitals. But they have to keep in mind the underlying focus and population that we serve, and not spend more time on the commercial relationships than they do on the Older Americans Act. And they're supposed to leverage those relationships to help serve our population. So we're supposed to have more contract oversight, which is establishing an approval process, establishing monitoring and oversight. And of course, I forgot to say, they hit us with these regulations and no additional funding. So that's the way it usually goes. Next slide. There's also a focus, in part because of those commercial relationships, on conflicts of interest, both internal and external. And also, as I'll talk in a few minutes, we've got some of our first regulations around adult protective services. And in those states, and we are one of them, where we have both adult protective services and guardianship programs and Older Americans Act operations in the same entity, we're going to have to think through and document our mitigation strategies of keeping those sides of the house separate. And I think we're there. We just have to get the documentation in place. We're also supposed to help identify, remove, and remedy any existing conflicts of interest at the organizational and individual levels, not just at the state, but with our area agencies on aging. The good news is, and COVID did teach us and the feds a lot, we have a lot more flexibility around some of our programs, including the nutrition services. So one of the things we did during COVID was the grab and go meals at senior centers. Those are now allowable. Also, home delivered meals are no longer limited to the home down, because there may be circumstances where people need the help with the meals, but are not necessarily stuck at home. Next slide. Also, and I know our contracts people will love to hear this, a lot of new memorandums of understanding are going to be required. They are requiring the ELAP program, Elder Legal Assistance, to have memorandums of understanding with the long-term care ombudsman programs and any other programs that they interact with. Emergency management, we are supposed to have more of a footprint or more of a place at the table for a continuity of operations plan and to coordinate, in our case, with G. The long-term care ombudsman program is going to be required to have an MOU with ELAP, and in our state, it will be the Department of Community Health, HFRD, Healthcare Facility Regulations. And they're recommending MOUs with the behavioral health organizations, our area agencies on aging, and other entities. So we're going to have to take a look at that and see what is appropriate for our state, but there will be more MOUs. Next slide. F, adult protective services. The very first ever regulations for adult protective services were published May 8th this year. The saying in aging is we're about 30 years, maybe 40 behind child welfare. So we kind of have our first regulations from the feds. They've added a new section to the Code of Federal Regulations for Title VII. They were effective June 7th. They're giving us 4 years to come into compliance. So that's the good news. We are going to be required to create an adult protective services state plan. So by my count, that brings us up to 5 state plans that our little tiny agency is responsible for, the State Unit on Aging or the Older Americans Act plan, the Title V, which is the Senior Worker Plan, Senior Hunger. We have the Georgia Alzheimer's and Related Dementias Plan, and now we're going to have Adult Protective Services. And those state plans are to be submitted at least every 5 years after our first submission in 2028.
Now, I thought we had a state plan for adult protective services back.
Not that we've always mentioned adult protective services in our Older Americans Act state plan,
Okay,
but now they want a standalone
I see.
adult protective services. And we asked, we said, can it not be part? All right. So, final rule implications for adult protective services. They have identified at the federal level 5 types of maltreatment. In Georgia, we typically speak about abuse, neglect, and exploitation, but all 5 of these we currently provide services around. We provide investigations on and services around. Each state is going to be allowed to define which adults are eligible for adult protective services. And in Georgia, by statute, it's those 18 and older with a disability or age 60 and older. Every state looks different right now. We suspect that at some point they're going to try to make that more cohesive, but for us, no change there. Next slide. So they are requiring a 2-tiered response of reports of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Right now, we do have a 2-tiered response. It's probably my fault. Yeah, sorry about that. But the timeframes are different. So the feds are asking for an immediate risk to have the investigator out no later than 24 hours. Currently, it's 2 business days. For non-immediate risk, the feds are now going to be requiring 7 calendar days. And right now, in Georgia, we target 10 days. And unfortunately, we're not meeting the percentages of getting those visits done in the timeframes we would like. And that's largely due to increased caseload, no increase in case managers. So we're going to have to be taking a look at that also. Client rights, we have most of these in Georgia, but confidentiality, the right to refuse to speak to adult protective services. This is very different from child welfare. The adult can say, get out of my face, and we have to honor that request. And they have the right to refuse adult protective services.
Do they take into account dementia?
So until a probate court says the adult does not have capacity to make those decisions, we do have to honor that. I will say oftentimes our case managers go out multiple times. They may not get cooperation the first visit or the second visit, but we do get repeat reports. We treat every one of them like we've never heard it before in the sense that we continue to go out. And eventually, you build that relationship, and then sometimes they'll say, okay, you've been out to my house 4 times. I'll let you in this time. So we work on that. Also, more MOUs to solidify relationships and information sharing with other state agencies, law enforcement, and others. So those are the 2 big lists. And then, as if that was not enough, Rule 504. This is the first HHS specific rules for Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1974. All agencies housed within HHS are subject to this rule, and any program or activity that receives federal funds through HHS are subject to this rule. So that has big implications for the Department of Human Services here in Georgia. And just one of the areas that we need to look at is web content and mobile apps have to be accessible. The rule adopts the web content accessibility guidelines level AA is the technical standard, and I confess I don't know what that means. And the web content must be accessible regardless of whether the content is located on the recipient's website or linked to other sites such as social media platforms. So we're looking forward to meeting and working with OIT and Office of Communications on making sure that we're in compliance with this rule. So a lot of work. And the last slide is just laying out what this really means, what it boils down to. It's increased monitoring and oversight requirements without additional funding for staff. It is the opportunity for program-wide policy changes. It's additional state plans. It's an update to the Older Americans Act state plans, more MOUs. We don't know how many yet. And we have 6 manuals that have to be reviewed and updated. So we are going to be busy.
No shortage of work. Wow,
And that is it.
wow, that's amazing.
A lot of this is what Eddie Cox went over.
Yes, and to add insult to injury, yes, a lot of our former staff are going to either Advancing States, which is the professional organization for us. So Abby Cox, previous director, also Cherie Rhines, who was our APS policy lead, is now at Advancing States. And the Council on Aging just lost their deputy director to ACL. So they're
Wow.
yeah.
Well, we appreciate all your work and how you stay above the confusion.
Well, we try to do our best.
So when you've got all that stuff to do, though, I mean, how can you, after you get it done? I mean, that's a problem.
Well, as I said at the beginning, there's not a state in the country that thinks they're going to meet the October 25 deadline. But we're working on a technical assistance contract with Advancing States. They're not going to do the work for us, but they'll help with that gap analysis. They'll help with some project management around that.
Could states work together and that come up with it?
Yes.
I mean, like, okay, we're gonna do this part, y'all do this part.
Well, no,
and then
because
we'll
everything
adopt.
is state specific.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's very much state specific. So like, for instance, Virginia, they've got 3 lawyers working on their gap analysis.
Okay.
We've just got 1 associate general counsel assigned to aging services, and she wears about 4,000 hats.
Yep.
So, so everybody's kind of chipping in a little bit. We've put in budget requests for
Yep.
staff to help us with this, because this is a lot of work. We will do our best. We were chipping away at it, but,
So what happens if you don't do it?
corrective action plan. And in fact,
They
basically,
can't do a corrective action plan on all 50 states.
yeah, they can.
I will say there's a lot about this that we maybe, because it has to be state specific, we can't copy paste,
Okay,
from states,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
that, as you mentioned, like child welfare has a lot of standardized processes that we can borrow from. We
Okay.
do have standardized MOUs that already comply with federal privacy and
Okay.
accessibility requirements. The website, we're a GETS agency, so we worked with the Georgia Technology Authority, and they already have efforts underway to make sure that state websites and other tools are ADA compliant. So a lot of this will dovetail with existing work that exists right now. And in addition to that, like getting technical assistance from an entity like the one she's described will be a huge help.
Yeah, Adult Protective Services is really in good shape, and that's why they stole our staff.
That's right.
Is because we were at the table when the rules were being
Right.
promulgated.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, I'm more worried about the Older Americans Act side
Mhm.
than I am on the ABS.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, so who we got next? Sarah, Assistant Deputy Commissioner Sarah Hurst, and Deputy Director Christy Stone.
Good afternoon.
Got 2 of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're doing a joint presentation.
Come on up to the table. Can't be sitting back here.
So good afternoon, Commissioner, Chair Smith,
Yes.
and board members. My name is Sarah Hurst, and I serve as the Assistant Deputy Commissioner for Child Support Services. So today I am joined by my colleague, Christy Stone, who serves as our Deputy Director of Operations. And we'll be sharing a few program updates with you all, and then some information on some of our specialty offices and their efforts to support our mission and vision. So moving forward to the next slide. Here you will see our program's mission, which is established by the Federal Office of Child Support Services, our vision as it relates to the federal mission and to the national child support community, and the values that govern our program. And before we move forward, I wanted to provide a few quick updates on our performance before we get into our discussion about specialty offices. So we are currently about 4 months away from the end of the federal fiscal year, which is when we report our performance to the federal office. And I'm very proud to report that as of the end of May, We are trending above our performance for current support arrears and support orders compared to last year. Also with that, our support order performance, we actually hit over 90% in May, which was the first time we've been back over 90% since August of 2022. So we've been working really hard to get back there. So we were really excited about that. One area of opportunity for us is our paternity performance. So I know you all heard us talk about paternity during the COVID pandemic and how challenging it was to get paternities established. So last year, we exceeded the 90% federal requirement. We ended at 92.2%. As of the end of May, we're about 1.5% behind last year's performance. So we're still doing well, but just not quite as well as we did last year. So we are certainly implementing several initiatives to increase our performance in that area. And we're continuing to explore additional ways that we can support that measure. So moving forward to the next slide, I just wanted to give some context about the makeup of our offices as a whole before we get into talking about specialty offices. So we have a total of 55 local offices, and then we have 10 regional offices, which provide support and oversight to our local offices. And then, of course, we have a state office that provides administrative support and oversight to all offices. And then we have our 5 specialty offices. So we'll be covering some details on 3 of those 5 today, which are the Albany Hub, Central Registry, and Georgia Employer Hub, or GE Hub, as we refer to it. And these specialty offices really play a vital role in the services that we provide. So over the years, we've looked for ways that we could centralize work in order to provide some greater support to our local offices, and really to increase the subject matter expertise for specialized tasks. So one way we've accomplished this has been through the implementation of these specialty offices. So I'll now hand it over to Christy, and she's going to provide an overview of the Albany Hub and Central Registry.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. The Albany Hub opened in 2006 and provided the following services up until 2011. They handled the statewide intake, the statewide locate, and order monitoring for the 6 metro offices: Atlanta, Augusta, Cobb, Columbus, Decatur, and Valdosta. And on the next slide, you will notice how the services changed. In July 2011, the Albany Hub transitioned to providing the services that they continue to provide today, which is the statewide intake, and that includes the 4A referrals, foster care referrals, and portal applications from all DFAC state offices. The statewide intergovernmental includes establishing and enforcing orders from Georgia custodial parents when the non-custodial parent lives in another state or country. Most of these services had been handled by staff in all of our local offices. The Albany Hub currently has 37 staff, and on the next slide, we will take a look at some of the benefits that having the Albany Hub handle the intake and intergovernmental services. The Albany Hub allows all 4A referrals and foster care referrals received from the Division of Family and Children Services to be processed at one central location. With the centralization of intake and intergovernmental cases to be at the Albany Hub, this takes the work off of the local offices and allows them to work on increasing our key performance indicators. On the next slide, we will go over some of the federal fiscal year stats. For federal fiscal year 2023, the Albany Hub registered over 18,000 4A referrals and foster care referrals and portal applications. I don't know about y'all, but that is a lot of applications. The Albany Hub managed a caseload of over 22,000 cases. This was the second largest caseload for an office in the state as of September of 2023. Also during federal fiscal year 2023, the Albany Hub worked to help establish 668 new support orders and 325 paternities. And I want to tell you a success story about the Albany Hub. During the month of October of 2023, the Albany Hub collected 2 large payments on a case. One payment received was $114,000, and the second payment on the case was over $34,000. And so that means over $148,000 was distributed to the custodial parent. The case was paid in full. And this was a property lien that the office worked on with the state of Texas. I can't imagine getting a payday of $148,000.
But you've been going without for a long time, though.
Evidently. So she deserved it. I say she. the custodial parents.
Yeah.
All right, next I want to share some information on Central Registry. And Georgia Central Registry is a federal mandated office by the Social Security Act. Central Registry receives, transmits, and responds to all inquiries for all incoming intergovernmental 4D cases from states, tribes, and foreign countries. They serve as an ambassador, liaison, and mediator between local offices, states, tribes, and countries. Central Registry has a total of 11 staff, and on the next slide, we will go over some of the federal fiscal year 2023 information. As you can see, Central Registry had over 12,000 intergovernmental documents received, and you can see up there how it's broken down. And also Central Registry processed over 62,000 computer transactions for the local offices. And lastly, they processed 2,700 closure requests, and that's a lot of work taken off our local offices. So we really do appreciate the work they do. And on the next slide, we'll go over some of the accomplishments of Central Registry. And 2023, the DHS Commissioner's Positive Impact Award was awarded to our manager of Central Registry, Terry Jones. For federal fiscal year 2024, Central Registry scored 96.4% match rate and exceeded the national average of 94%. Currently, Central Registry is ranked 14th nationally on the Interstate Reconciliation Report. And that's the report that they have to work that helps you look at data and paternity from other states and all, it helps us manage our cases. So being ranked 14 is really good. And now I would hand it back over to Assistant Deputy Commissioner Sarah Hurst to discuss the GE Hub.
Chrissy. So some of you all may recall we have presented before on the Georgia Employer Hub, I think back around the time it started about 6 years ago. So just kind of wanted to provide an update on where they are today. And some of the services they provide to help out our local offices. So they serve as a resource for employers, and they also aid in increasing collections and strengthening our partnership with the employer community. So the GE Hub streamlines the Federal Income Withholding Order, or IWO, process. And prior to the creation of this hub, individual offices and agents were responsible for reviewing and mailing, faxing, or emailing any income withholding order that we received for a parent who is court ordered to pay child support. So this is a big change from how we used to do work around income withholding orders. When I started back in 2006 as an agent in one of the local offices, every day I would receive a stack of income withholding orders to review and then figure out if I needed to mail it, fax it, email it. I would have to document the case, and I was just one of several agents in my office multiplied by all of the offices we have. So we were doing this work throughout the state. So what we did is we centralized this work to the Georgia Employer Hub, and it takes a lot of that time and just that manual effort from the local offices so they can spend it working on other important tasks. So during federal fiscal year 23, employers withheld 73% of all child support collections nationwide through income withholding. And employers frequently have questions around the income withholding order process because it can get kind of complicated. So this hub serves as that resource for employers, offering a single point of contact to assist them with any questions they have regarding income withholding orders that they receive. So our Georgia Employer Hub has a total of 36 employees. And on the next slide, we'll take a closer look at the work of the teams within the hub. So first off, I'm going to start with the Federal Income Withholding, or FIW, team. And this team really does the bulk of the work around the process I just mentioned about reviewing those income withholding orders and determining, whether they need to be sent out or if they may be a duplicate or if they need to be mailed, emailed, faxed, however they need to be sent. And they do that work through the assistance of our Enterprise Notice Generation System. So this is an application that allows the hub to easily assign those new income withholding orders to their team members for review. And it also offers great ease of use and flexibility if reassignments need to occur. The income withholding orders are typically sent out to employers within 24 hours of receipt. And this exceeds the federal requirement, which is 2 business days. The application enables the hub employees to easily email or electronically fax documents to the employers. I remember when the hub started up, we were getting some feedback from their team members that they were spending a lot of time at the fax machine. So we worked with OIT and were able to get this electronic fax solution, which is super helpful and saves them a lot of time from having to wait around at the fax machine. The hub averages between 3,000 to 5,000 income withholding orders each week. And I want to give a shout out to the Office of Information Technology. They've been a really great partner with us over the last several years in making enhancements to the ENGS application to make sure it meets our team's needs and where we can make improvements to help make things more efficient. The next team is the mail team, and they're pretty self-explanatory. They assist with mail as well as emails received from employers. Next is the employer outreach team, and this is the team that really serves as that point of contact for employers when they have questions. So they may have just general questions about the child support process as a whole or about the income withholding order process. So this team helps with either type of question. And then they also explain to employers about the electronic income withholding order or EIWO process, and I'll go into a little more detail on that shortly. And so they encourage employers to enroll in that process. Employers may also receive some other letters from us other than income withholding orders, and so they help with any questions they have about those documents. And last but not least, we have our report team. And again, as their name implies, they work a group of specialty reports. And really those reports are aimed at ensuring we have reliable employer data within our system and also ensuring we start to receive payments once we do send the income withholding orders out. So they do follow up with employers if we don't see payments start to come in and find out, if they're having any issues in implementing the income withholding, or if possibly the non-custodial parent is no longer working at that employer any longer, because that does happen. And the goal with this team's work is to ensure employers are implementing those IWOs as required so families can start receiving their child support payments as soon as possible. And the hub does a great job at cross-training their team members. So even though you're a member on a particular team, you're cross-trained for other duties so they can fill in where needed. And on the next slide, I want to highlight some information about the work that the hub did during federal fiscal year 23. So they reviewed and processed over 228,000 income withholding orders during the year. They also handled almost 28,000 inbound and outbound calls and assisted with educating employers about the EIWO process. So as of the end of federal fiscal year 23, we had over 7,000 employers participating in that electronic process. And the number continues to grow. So as of the end of May, we actually have over 8,100 employers participating. And increasing this number is part of our DHS strategic plan. The EIWO program is an efficient and cost-effective way to electronically exchange income withholding and order information between state child support programs and employers. So some of the benefits include getting money to the families faster. Also, employers can use the program to acknowledge receipt of each incoming IWO, and they can also quickly respond to the state if an employee is no longer employed there. This process ultimately results in increased accuracy and reliability of data, saving time, money, and resources. So again, I mentioned that we have over 8,100 employers participating now, and that actually exceeds the strategic plan goal that we set for June for this month by over 1,600. So the team has done a really great job reaching out to employers and educating them on that process. And we've been really successful in getting employers to sign up. So we're excited about that. So I mentioned earlier that nationwide, 73% of all child support payments were collected through income withholding from an employee's paycheck during federal fiscal year 23. Here in Georgia, we're just a bit below the national average. We had 68% of our child support payments come through income withholding, but that was up from 64% in the previous year. And we ranked 13th in the nation for the total dollar amount of collections received through income withholding. So we're definitely focused on increasing the percentage of child support payments collected through income withholding because we know it's the most reliable form of child support collections for families. So that's really important.
Is there any correlation between the amount of money that you get for the person that needs it and a reduction in what the state has to provide those people?
For child support compared to benefits that are given out? Most definitely. So child support serves as one of the most important safety networks for families. So a lot of times that they're receiving their child support, they may not need to get on
state benefits.
Right.
So I can probably get you some data on that if you'd like.
Just generally, I mean, that's a way the state can save money.
Oh, absolutely.
Obviously, it's a bit more that y'all get for them, for those people, but then the less the state has to.
Absolutely.
That'd be a great thing to look at.
Yeah.
At convenience.
Absolutely. But that was all I had, and I'm certainly happy to take any other questions that you all have for us today.
Thank you. You did your hard work.
Thank you.
With regard to what I haven't heard much about lately, parental accountability courts. How do we look, are we moving ahead on these? I mean, I know they were, at one time, they were a big priority.
Absolutely.
And I know there's the overall successful, a great idea. I talked to Judge Ann Harris, County Superior Court often. She's a huge fan of them. But and I just want, are we, are expanding those still a priority? And what can we do more? I mean, or can we do more?
Absolutely. I appreciate that question. And yes, it is absolutely a priority for us. We're at 44 out of the 50 judicial circuits. We're having parental accountability program. The most recent one was in Savannah. Christy and I attended that kickoff. And that was really exciting because that was one of the few that we had remaining that had not yet implemented the program. And they have so much support in the Savannah community. It was a great kickoff. So we have just a small group remaining. I think one or two of them had parental accountability courts previously, but had to withdraw from the program for one reason or another. So our team actively works with those areas to see what we can do to better support it. Sometimes it's just a matter of the judges already have a lot on their plate, and so they may not at the moment have the time to take on an additional accountability court. But we're certainly, our goal is to get to 100%. So, we're looking at what we can do and any kind of fears we can address that the judicial circuits may have. But sometimes it's just a timing thing. There may be a new judge that comes in that then has the capacity to take it on. And certainly we get so much support from our current judges who are over the parental accountability courts, and they're great advocates for the program. But the data speaks for itself. Those who are even just referred into the program, let alone those that graduate, we see much more child support being paid just from them having interacted with the program compared to the 12 months before entering the program. So we're seeing great outcomes for families. And then if you ever attend any of the graduations, which we're happy to share those dates with you all, the stories are just so inspirational. A lot of the participants will speak about how they may have been a bit unsure when they joined the program, but then working through the program and working with our coordinators has really changed their lives. So it's inspirational for us to attend. We love going to those. But yes, we are absolutely still focused on that and trying to get to 100%.
Great. And thank you for that report. And I'm encouraged to know there's 44 circuits.
Yes, we're excited.
Out of 50.
Yeah.
Out of 50.
Out of 50, yeah. It used to be 49 judicial circuits and then increased legislative session. So yeah, we can certainly share the map with you also, which ones we still are trying to get on board.
Yeah, information like that, I think it's good to have.
Absolutely.
And look, we know, I think I attended the graduation once. I'd love to do it again, but, and I just should take the initiative to do that, but they are, they're positive, and I get good feedback from judges. But yeah, so I just wanted to get an update on that. I appreciate your work.
Yep, and Christy oversees that area as well. So she has a lot under her oversight. She does a great job.
Let me just ask, has it been implemented then that they allow a limited driver's license for fathers who might lose their driver's license, then they can't find a job to, that's already in effect now?
It is in effect now. Okay. That passed last legislative session. And so that is in effect.
Yeah.
And we also have just a variety of release options. If somebody wanted to get their driver's license back, we have kind of 8 options that we start with. And if those don't work for some reason, then they do have the option to get a limited driving permit.
What are those options?
So we have a variety of 8 options. Some require a payment, like partial payment towards their arrears amount. Others do not require a payment, like if the non-custodial parent provides us a proof that they are newly employed, we will release their license because of course we know they need their license to get to work. We can send you all the list of all 8. There's some that are medically related, like if they're medically by a doctor has stated they cannot work for whatever reason. So I can certainly share that.
So all these different things that everybody's gonna follow up on, can they just all come in one email? Is that,
We got
that's
it.
what you're doing? Okay, all right, good. All right, thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it
you all.
very much. Thank you. All right, let's see, we've got Byron here to talk to us about the DHS rule change.
Good afternoon, I'm Byron Cuthbert, I'm Associate General Counsel assigned to Division of Child Support. And we're actually here to talk about that specific rule change. So for a roadmap of the presentation, basically we're gonna go over a general review of the rule change procedures. We'll talk about that specific rule. Then we'll do the public comment period and we'll be asking for the final adoption today. All right, so the rule change procedure works basically like this. Last board meeting, we did an initial motion to publish. And then we had a 30-day comment period and a public hearing. And then this meeting, we'll be having a final adoption. And after we all adopt the rule, we submit it to the Secretary of State for filing and publication. So the rule is Rule 2971.12. And as we stated, it's to basically add the temporary license permit process to comply with the 2020 legislation. So it's putting our rules in compliance with the legislation. We had a public comment period from March 1st through March 30th, and we had a public hearing on March 22nd, 2024. I'm proud to say that we had no comments received, so we seem to get consensus about it. So as a result, I'm asking for a motion for final adoption of the proposed meeting.
That's what we'll do. Vote on the events. Okay.
Are there any questions?
Yeah. All right. We'll vote on that as part of the normal within our business meeting department. So how are we doing on time? Breaks? Do we need a break? Anybody need a break? Do we move forward?
Jill?
Move forward?
Sure.
Okay, good. All right, let's go forward. All right, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order. And we've got some more business that we got to deal with. Division of Child Support Services, the rule change that we're just talking about. And so seldom is there the close link between rule change and the actual vote. So I think that's good. The board will now consider the proposed rule change from the Division of Child Support Services related to the amendments of the rule chapter 290-7, rule 290-7-1-12, license revocation and suspensions. Is there a motion?
So moved.
You gotta say the whole thing, I think.
I move that the proposed, just right here, this. I move that the proposed amendments to rules chapter 290-7 of the rules of the Georgia Department of Human Services entitled License Revocation or Suspensions as presented to the public notice dated February 27, 2024 be approved and adopted, certified by the Commissioner and filed with the Secretary of State as provided by law with an effective date of July 1, 2024.
Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chairman, Dave Barbie seconds.
Okay, got two seconds. All right, so it is moved and properly seconded that the proposed rule changes from the Division of Child Support Services be approved and adopted. Are there any questions? Not, then we'll go on and take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 And all those opposed? Okay, very good. All right, so I guess that the rule passes I think. No one will say, yeah. All right. All right, so now we need to vote on the approval of the minutes. February 27th and April 2nd meeting minutes have been distributed to y'all. You should already have those. Are there any corrections? And is there a motion? No corrections. So,
Move that the minutes of the last meetings be accepted.
good. February 27th and like April 2nd. Second?
Second.
I
Second.
second the motion.
I like your captain. You're all good. All right, so it is moved and properly seconded that the Board of Human Services minutes for the February 27th and April 2nd meeting will be approved. Are there any discussions? We'll now vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. And, all right, so, and that passes. All right. All right, so now the next section, stay, you do. Okay. No, 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 please. Oh. Okay, you're okay.
We don't have to go into executive session.
No, we're just in a regular meeting. That's something to do that. I don't know if I read something wrong. Okay, so the next action of the meeting needs to, got a proposed action and salary adjustment. In accordance to Article 5, Section 5 of the Department of Human Services bylaws, the board is required to periodically review the salary of the commissioner and adjust her salary as it may deem necessary. In accordance with the Department of Bylaws and OCGA Section 45-7-7, the board is making public at this official meeting its proposed action to adjust the commissioner's salary by 5% of her current annual salary. Such notice of the such proposed action and the amount of the proposed salary adjustment is required to be provided to the public and the governor at least 30 days prior to that date that the board considers such an action. So the board will now consider the proposal to adjust Commissioner Rose's salary by 5% of current annual salary and provide notice of such proposed action and the amount to the public and the governor at least 30 days prior to that date that the board considers such action. On July 23rd would be when we can vote on it.
I move that the proposed action to adjust Commissioner Rose's salary by 5% of current annual salary and provide notice of such proposed action and the amount to the public and to the governor at least 30 days prior to the date that the board considers action on July 23rd.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all right. So I'd like to have us all vote on that. All those in favor say yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. Okay, good. All those opposed? Very good. Congratulations. And we are not only just excited that that can happen, but we sure appreciate your service and your leadership. And we look forward to you being with us for a while. All right. So that being said, Commissioner, time for your remarks, I guess.
Sure. Pull up my notes here. Thank you so much first for being willing to entertain the notion of a salary increase. I love my job. I think I have the best job in state government. I can see every day that the agency is improving so many people's lives, but also really taking steps to improve overall and address the challenges that we have, which we try our best to be clear and transparent about. And certainly, I think each of the people that have done reports prior to mine show you just how dedicated we are and that we're really trying to effectuate positive change across the agency. So I know that there was a request for me to speak to both successes that we've achieved recently, but also challenges on the horizon. So I'll start with some successes that weren't already covered in the prior reports. One of those is something that doesn't sound super glamorous, but is actually a huge undertaking. We are only one office location statewide from having Wi-Fi deployed across the entire office. This has been a multi-year effort. It's hard to believe that some of our local offices didn't have Wi-Fi available throughout the entire office location. Some of them it was hardwired, so Wi-Fi either wasn't available at all or it was only available in certain areas. So this was again, multi-year, multi-million-dollar effort to get it done, and we're just one away. And that one's in Cobb, so we're almost done. There's parts of the office that aren't yet Wi-Fi enabled. That will be done very soon. We also want to thank the governor and the legislature for their advocacy for another statewide employee pay increase. And so that's going to be going into effect very soon once we start the new fiscal year, July 1st. For our employees, that means everyone's going to get that cost of living adjustment, 4%, but with a cap of $3,000 overall. So I think we've issued the memo to our staff to let them know what that's going to look like in terms of their paychecks. But again, that's been a huge initiative of the governor and legislature in recent years, with pay continuing to steadily increase. And by structuring the pay raises the way that they have, it's really meant that the lowest paid state employees are getting the highest increases, and seeing that, which is wonderful for our agency, considering the workers that we have and the needs that they have to keep doing critical work. We also are in the final stages of deploying some improvements to how we contract, because we are the state's largest agency with our overall footprint. We have thousands of contracts every year that either have to be renewed or changed by June 30th if it runs with a state fiscal year, or by September 30th if it runs with a federal fiscal year. So thousands of contracts all the time with all those moving parts. And what it meant was that we wanted to take a holistic view of how we do that, because there have been complaints about delayed payment or delayed renewal or problems in communication on changes that we needed to make, oversight and accountability. So we've been working with Accenture for some time now to restructure how we do contracting and to hire more personnel to assist with that. So that means more lawyers, some good and bad. You know, I'm a lawyer, so I'm allowed to say that. For us, it's good. We needed that additional expertise with the complicated contracts that we rely on to deploy services and partner with community entities statewide. So that is, I think, nearing completion with better technology too to track contracts. And that is, was described earlier, contracting and accountability is a big component of just the federal rule changes that the Division of Aging Services needs to roll out soon. And so that's going to dovetail nicely in addition to the other benefits we'll see for our divisions. I want to say that the state of Georgia, finished our statewide Medicaid public health emergency redeterminations process on time. We do not need additional time to complete it, unlike some other states. That was a monumental undertaking, and there were so many moving parts, but we got it done in a timely fashion. That's not to say it went perfectly. We've learned a lot through that process, but we were very aggressive about trying to get the message to people about how to stay proactive and stay covered, even if it meant losing Medicaid coverage, also trying to help them get over to some private market options. And the Department of Insurance has seen truly unbelievable increases in privately insured Georgians. So many of those that they lost Medicaid coverage, but now they have that option for their families, which is wonderful. Some other successes to highlight: we've made some policy changes within DFACS, within the child welfare part of the agency, to streamline foster parent recruitment and retention, to really make it not to lose the vetting process, not to lose anything about the vetting process. Safety is paramount, but to eliminate some of the administrative burdens that come along with trying to recruit more resources. And so those just went into effect, and I think it changes things all the way down to like whether you have to have your septic tank emptied in the inspections that go with it before you can become a foster parent. So things like that, it's really going to move the needle and hopefully see our numbers continue to increase. So we have the appropriate amount of caregivers available for all of the children that we serve in DFACS. We are deploying some new technology in DFACS for child welfare, where I think I've described in prior settings, we run Shines, that's what we call our case management system. But right now it's somewhat older technology, and something as simple as being able to search a keyword across all of the cases in that database does not exist right now. We're really excited to deploy the ability to search by keyword across cases, hopefully sometime mid to late July. It will not initially be available statewide to every DFACS child welfare worker. We're going to start off by state office staff and some other units, and then slowly, as we work out any kinks or issues, deploy it statewide. But for case managers and supervisors, that's going to be a game changer. Seems very simple, but that's going to be a huge change and make it easier and more effective for someone to link families and cases, make sure that if there's someone who is a maltreater, alleged maltreater of a child, that having misspellings of their names and nicknames, that we catch that in the system. So we know when we're interacting with families and trying to serve that child, we know way more about their circumstances than we previously can access. Again, this is for child welfare. In May, we were involved in a 2-week statewide recovery effort with federal law enforcement, primarily with the FBI, but law enforcement agencies across the state, to recover missing and exploited and trafficked youth. So many of those were already in our custody, but they were missing. And also for children that maybe weren't in our custody, but had DFACS involvement. And so in just 2 weeks there, we recovered a total of 14 children. 2 of those were twice. Once they were recovered, they got away, and then they were recovered again, which is great. But for reference, what we learned from the FBI is that in recent years, they did I think it was a month-long national recovery effort for the same categories of children, and they recovered 100 in that month-long effort. So if you think about 14 in 2 weeks, that's really great progress. And that was a testament to just the statewide coordination that we had with all levels of DFACS, child welfare workers, trying to find those children and get them back safe. So cannot praise them enough, because that was 2 weeks of 24/7 involvement. Let's see, in the budget, there's also there's another provider rate increase primarily for our foster caregivers. So that's going to be rolled out very soon, hopefully July 1. Want to thank the governor. I think it's a 3% increase, and we've in recent years gotten other provider rate increases with the governor's support in the legislature, and this is another one in recent years. So that's wonderful news. We got budget support to improve the child support system, STARS, and so those efforts are underway. We're working hand in hand with the Georgia Technology Authority, which we share this building with them, to modernize STARS and make a lot of the functionality more user-friendly, which means hopefully higher collections to flow directly to custodial parents who are caring for these children. So that's going to be really exciting. That's a multi-million-dollar investment by the governor and the legislature. And so that's a pretty big chunk of change, but it's going to make a dramatic difference. And those efforts are underway right now with planning and procurement in final design stages. For challenges that we have ahead, again, I just mentioned STARS, a big system change is a big undertaking. So that's certainly one that we want to make sure that we get right. The same thing goes with Gateway, which is the system that we currently use to handle Medicaid, SNAP, TANF, WIC, and CAPS eligibility for Georgians. And that system is we're jointly working on this process with the Department of Community Health to understand what is a better system, a future system, one that is both easier for recipients of these benefit programs and for the people that work in the system. And so it's a federally required process. Of course, we have to constantly be making sure that we're either improving the systems we use or we're replacing them in a timely fashion. We're now going down the path of that full replacement effort, which means it goes out to bid. It's a giant system, so it's going to be a big investment again, but that is on the horizon. And, you know, it's going to be a huge technology lift statewide that we're excited about nonetheless.
That will happen this year.
No, this is going to be multi-year. So right now what we're doing is working with Department of Community Health to hire the consultants that then help us create the requirements, then help us put it out to bid. So it takes several years to get it rolling. A challenge at the state office that we're trying to address is better law enforcement coordination, specifically for child welfare cases. So we learned a lot from that statewide recovery effort of missing and exploited youth. We're trying to grow a new unit in the state office for special victims, because so many children that are missing and exploited in the state of Georgia are foster children. That is because those children are in fact targeted by perpetrators, and because they don't have the same level of support systems, people that are looking for them and trying to keep them out of harm's way. We're going to be putting a lot of resources and policy development and legislative advocacy toward that group of children to see what we can do to prevent victimization, but also help them heal from any exploitation that they experience, especially when they're in our care. I personally believe, looking at what other states do and what the numbers say about Georgia, that Georgia has been doing a great job of this in this category for some time. You may not necessarily see that in the news, but that is the truth. And we're going to continue to grow. We've got some ideas in the works right now, and closer partnerships with nonprofits that do this, as well as law enforcement. And we're going to really be putting the pedal to the metal to make us the best in the nation when it comes to addressing this particular issue for child welfare. The last thing I'll talk about is the challenge of what DAS described when they were talking about these federal rule changes for the Older Americans Act funding and additional state plans and additional accountability. That's a lot of change in what may not seem like a short timeline, but 4 or 5 years trying to essentially overhaul the process for how we do business is going to be monumental. We're excited about it though, because again, I truly believe that Georgia leads the way. That's why people poach our staff in the Division of Aging Services. But especially if only the component of additional requirements without the funding, that's going to require a lot of advocacy at the state level. And we're fortunate our agency has received substantial funding in recent years with the governor's support in the legislature. So I think that we will get what we need, but that's a huge challenge ahead. And that means probably a lot of rulemaking through this board too. So you're going along the journey with us, whether you like it or not. But that's what I have for my report. I'm excited about where the agency is. I'm getting close to 3 years in the DFACS director role, and then in September it'll be 3 years as commissioner. I don't get the sense that our hair is on fire as much as it felt at the beginning. I think that we've made a lot of progress, and so we have great people in leadership positions too throughout the agency. So I'm looking forward to continue to serve.
Appreciate your report. All right. Right. So that's all our existing business. Do we have any new business? I had a couple of things that I can share with you. First of all, I want to be sure that all the board members know that you'll be getting from Emma an updated organizational chart, and you'll get that here via email sometime soon. I guess this week maybe or next week. And then I'm excited to report about some progress on the meeting dates. We've been dancing a little bit on the meeting dates. And so the idea came up that we would have the meeting on the, make sure I get this right, the Wednesday after the quarter is completed. The first Wednesday on after the quarter is completed. So, have we set those dates out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
okay.
just big for consideration.
I'm sorry.
They're just for consideration. So you guys would.
All right, so what I'd like to do is just, you don't have to tell them now, but just send these out to everybody. And it's on one little simple sheet. And we can, and that doesn't mean we have to do that, but if we got to start somewhere with all everybody's different schedules and stuff. And so we can have that sent to you. And then the only other thing is the July meeting, we probably, I guess, need to do it via Zoom or whatever we use these days. And because we need to, there has to be 30 days between our recommendation on Candace's salary to the implementation of it. And so all the governors, all that's been appropriately handled. And but I want to throw out the idea of July the 23rd as a Zoom meeting. I don't think it has to be in person, does it?
It does not.
No, okay. So we'll just plan on that being in, that'll be the only issue that I know of at this point that we would have. So nobody be coming into Atlanta or anything like that. So anyway, if, is everybody okay with that July 23rd meeting by Zoom? Okay, I'm going to assume it's okay then. All right, so Emma, you can make note of that. And then also, I went through some, in my new role here, I just want to be sure I know what's going on and from a responsibility standpoint. And so I'm going to ask that Emma send out to all the board members a copy of the bylaws of this board. And so just so that you know, I'm not going to dare try to read too much here, but just the categories, the arenas of our responsibility is policy making function, rule making function, trustee function, appointing authority function, and advocacy function. And so, it's just good to read through those and see, because as I've talked to everybody, all of you folks on the board is excited about sort of taking a more of a role, and our heart is to help, not to slow things down, but it's to be. So I just think it's important to utilize everybody's talent. And as I've talked to the different board members about it, everybody was just all aboard on that. So as we hear the reports from all you guys, our questions are sincere and they are to help. And we want to we know y'all do the work. We're not trying to do the work, but we do want to be involved to the point where if we can make recommendations. And so we're going to talk about maybe some committee stuff where we can take our personal advocacy for different arenas of these areas and maybe have a lead board person. And a lot of times they'll have two people from the board on the committee, consistent with the bylaws. And so anyway, just a general, so y'all be thinking about the areas that you might want to, be involved with within the organization. So with that, any other questions, any comments? Okay, any other business? I think, is this what I'm supposed to do here? Gavel this thing? Huh? Okay. Oh, sorry, thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? Go ahead.
I moved.
Second. All right, Barbie, he beat you to it. All right.
That's
All
right.
in favor, yay?
Yay.
Yay.
Okay, thank y'all. Doug, great to have you. Look forward to working with you.
Y'all be
Thank you.
well. Okay, y'all be good.
All right,
Bye-bye.
I think we got an hour back.
Wow, that's.
Is that right? Is my clock right?
Looking good.
Good job, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.